Hi, good morning. This is the Bitcoin Morning Brief. I'm Leah Wald. We have Rodolfo on today. We have Tone. Rodolfo, how's it going?
Good. Enjoying the crypto Twitter. Yay.
We have a good amount of tweets today. And Tone, I'll just say it. So Saifedean is coming to DC on Sunday, doing a book signing, and also we're gonna have an amazing dinner. And Tone, are you coming?
Yes. So that also means that on Saturday, right after I teach my workshop in Boston, I will have to drive back home. It's like 4 or 5 hour drive just so I can make another 4 or 5 hour drive to DC the following day. So my workshop ends around 5 p.m. I'll try and maybe catch a quick bite to eat if people from the workshop want to come out. And after that, I got to drive home in order to make it to DC on Sunday.
Oh,
Oh
what's
God.
What
going
is
on?
that? What is that?
Is that a pickle? Is he eating
Yeah, that is
a vegetable?
a pickle. That's right. Everybody cheats.
Okay, last thing I will say is that I got goaded into carnivory, and Tone
Well,
has accepted this challenge as well. So, for everybody, in my coffee mug, which does say Tears of the Patriarchy, this was bone broth this morning. That instead
nice.
of coffee, so I may be a little grumpy or like tweaked out.
Oh, you're killing coffee too?
No,
Well, we don't
yeah,
know. We're
yeah.
trying to. I send off a list of questions to Bitstein and Saifedean, like the most reasonable possible cheats, and like coffee and tea are two of them. So I don't know if we are or aren't allowed to drink those.
Well,
Safe.
so beans are low, like essentially like super low in the glycemic index. So and it's all insoluble like fiber. So I mean it's kind of fine.
But coffee aren't actually beans. Coffee is a fruit.
So true. And
Shit, I'm
also,
talking about beans.
Safe told me this morning because it was a desperate text. It was like, "Can I please drink coffee this morning?" And he said no through a challenge. She was like, "You really shouldn't. Like, if you're hardcore enough, you shouldn't." So I got challenged into it. So obviously, so
You know
this is
what?
bone broth.
Life is too short to go 100% on anything, man. Fuck that. I'm having
Only
coffee.
120. Yeah, chill and your cup. All right, we will jump into this. This is a really good day because this is my favorite coin, as everybody is starting to understand. So EOS is just killing it. I swear to God, this is like it's the best thing in the world. It seems as if they actually even understood Y2K bug. So Tone, this is a tweet from you. Can you explain what EOS is up to or what just happened and got
Well,
found out?
okay, maybe I hope Rodolfo's seen this.
Oh,
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. I was not able to see it, but oh god. Uh oh boy. Uh oh, sorry. Like this is pretty stupid. Uh,
Yes. So basically,
what are they using like proof of like a
Stupidity.
memory resistance algo or something that you need to prove the RAM you have or something? I actually never spent too much time looking at EOS because to
yeah,
me, it's,
there's a reason for that. Um,
you know,
but no.
wow.
So here's the best part though, right? Because I could only fit so much into a screenshot. The guy that wrote this, he basically explained the overflow was itself a bug. So they actually got saved by a bug. Otherwise, the whole thing would just like stop working.
I think when you have people that don't know what they're doing, trying to do things like this, is that it's bad and stupid right from the bottom, right? So like blockchain is not a democratic system, and you cannot do that because you can have cyber attacks and on the voting, and it doesn't work, right? And then of course the same people who had the original stupid idea for the economic principles of that shitcoin then go and design the technical part of it, and of course you're gonna have the same problems because this is like dum dums doing dum dum things, and
But Rodolfo, Rodolfo, they're super bootstrapped, so they couldn't afford to hire, any good devs. That's the thing. They have no money,
Then they
no
shouldn't
money.
be doing this.
That was sarcasm. They had like 50 billion.
If you can't afford to do something that requires that money, then don't do it.
Their token sale was what, 4 billion, and now Peter Thiel's putting in another 2 billion or something utterly ridiculous.
VCs know how to get in the ground.
Maybe I'll skip straight to that tweet. What do you think? All right. This is just gonna be a fun day. So Rodolfo, I'm just gonna call him out. He wanted to cover this one today. This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna be a bit of a contrarian. So Meltem Demirors, sorry, I'm probably butchering that one. Is actually a really, really great VC. She's very interesting. I actually did find this I really very much agree with her thesis. We've talked about this on the show a lot. However, I don't agree with many of her points supporting her thesis and explaining the VC business specifically, which is what she's trying to get into. So let me just make a couple points and then running it to you, Rodolfo, to battle me back, if you want to. So just one is that it's the nature of the VC to cash out big on a liquidity event. She's saying that, but I think this is great, actually, because it provides incentives to ensure the success of their investments. Now, what isn't really being talked about is, like, Jimmy is a GP at Blockchain Capital, right? Which invests in Bitcoin blockchain companies. So to her point that VCs need to participate actually actively in the demand for ideas, she explained that this is by speaking, I think blogging, writing, that this can be actually, I think, a really good thing for Bitcoin if a GP actually understands Bitcoin or blockchain, like Jimmy, because there's not that many that do, and utilizes this influence really to explain the importance. And thereby, I think something I always talk about is be able to differentiate so that people can Bitcoin and their shit coins and their crap projects. Anyways, what do you think about what she said?
So I think she really got to the crux of what it is to be a VC, right? VCs are in for a return, not for, it's not charity. Now, VCs make their money by buying when information is low and then selling, hopefully, when the information is high for the public and it's good information, right? So, a dev comes to you as a VC and says, hey, I have this awesome, cool idea, right? Like, I think I can change the world by doing this and that. So you go like, okay, your fundamentals seem right, but nobody knows this guy, right? So all the risk is on the VC, but also all the reward is on the VC. So the VC gives the person some money for the maximum amount of shares the VC can get from the entrepreneur. And then when the information, when the company does its thing and hopefully is successful, information now is high for the rest of the public, the VC cashes out. Right? It's a pretty simple business model here. Now, what's interesting is she's really that was just sort of the basics of a VC, but then she really goes into why all these like shit forks and like these dApps are really stupid, these ICOs, is because, see, VCs are again, they're going on, the information is low because this ICO people come to them, but then there is incredible liquidity on these ICO tokens, right? VCs can dump them even before this stuff is really a thing. They don't have to have a real company making money for the next shareholders who are going to buy those shares to sort of like, believe that it's true by seeing the books. So essentially, we're creating Ponzi's here. And another problem too is that, and I think she makes a good point, that there's no scarcity, right, on ICOs because they can be forked. So, and they get forked, and then another 50 other companies doing the same crap with one variable change. We saw this way back with Barbecue Coin, one of the first Bitcoin forks, right? So forks have zero scarcity. They claim to have scarcity in their blockchains, but they don't because they can be forked, and then the next scam starts again. Natural current Ponzi's.
Interesting. Yeah, full disclosure, I worked in VC for 2 years. Tone, what did you think about what she's saying? And in relationship to the crux of her argument is that that the business model of venture capital is necessary to understand because it is crap for the token economy. And she's trying to make people understand, if I understood this correctly, really the nature so that really people understand why this is bad or doesn't make sense.
I actually want to go to the tweet that she's referencing, the Ryan Selke stupid idiot tweet. So if you can just click on that. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of agree with these points, right? So Ryan said that, hey, VCs are just buying up these ICOs and then dumping them on the general public. And he makes a good point. And we've been talking about this on this channel and forever. Basically, that's not what the traditional VC model is. And either VCs are now envious of hedge funds and they want to be hedge funds.
Can I just interrupt you there for 1 second, Tone? Yeah. I mean, that's what it's perceived to be. But like when you actually see the crux of a lot of VCs, they do that. They buy the shares low and then they dump on B rounds on people that don't know better.
Well, traditionally, fine. They dump on B rounds that people don't know better, but those B rounds don't come in, a month later, and they don't come into the general public, right? They may not know better, but those B rounds are still somewhat qualified investors, right? So
You're totally right.
Right. So even though it's not the same, they're right now they're buying up at A and then they're selling, at an accelerated B, but the B is virtually an IPO. And traditionally, there was like years and lots of other levels in between those two. So Ryan makes some good points, and she basically she took Ryan's tweet, which was less than the maximum amount of characters in one tweet, and she turned it into like a 10-tweet marathon, which pretty much says the same thing, but with detail.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Yeah.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, you first.
No, I mean, I think ultimately what I really enjoy about all this is seeing VCs do their laundry in public. I think it's important for retail investors and for your angel rounds and all these people, like people who are not like, sophisticated VCs to understand how the sausage is made. It's about time this stuff gets out so people get a better idea from their mouths, right? Because we've been screaming about ICOs since the first ICO and how it's a scam and a Ponzi. But it's just nice to see, these circles sort of going through that publicly too.
Right, and the thing is, we don't know where this is going to go because I think the ICO model is a disaster. And some VCs are getting on board. And we will see if basically the ICO model is the elimination of VCs. I don't see it as VCs. I see it as the elimination of VCs. And I see it as like the elimination of hedge funds as well, right? Because anybody can do this now. So it all becomes about insiders. And there'll be movies about this. All of this will be exposed. Just wait. Like the Wolf of Wall Street movie, there can be a dozen of those in about 5 to 10 years about what was happening in this space and this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to that point, right? Even Andreessen Horowitz recently announced their $400 million fund, and they are investing in ICOs and pre-mines. So absolutely. But to this point as well, and what we talk about is with these shit coins, when shit does hit the fan, and you've been talking, the law briefs and regulators are trying to figure this shit out, and a lot of people are going to get in a lot of trouble. I hope that at least this will expose how bad this is, and hopefully, people will learn, if anything, because they don't want to end up in jail.
I'm not going to say a lot of people are going to get into a lot of trouble. Yeah. A few people are going to get into a lot of trouble.
True.
And this is why this is happening, because everyone thinks it's not going to be them. I don't know who it's going to be, but it is going to be a few.
I think the market's still too small. So people are going to start going to jail, in years from now when you have, your multi-technology scammers doing the scam way later.
Yeah. Or more Mayweathers and DJ Khaled. Just kidding. All right, moving. So the scoop, it says Cali police have arrested a college student accused of stealing more than 5 million in Bitcoin and other cryptos by SIM swapping 40 plus people. Pretty much saying it here. Also,
apparently the consensus conference.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if people don't know what SIM swapping is. It's essentially when you get the carrier to reissue a new SIM to you as the bad guy. So you collect information about the person, and then you call the carrier and say, "Oh, I lost my phone. Here's all my info. Send me a new SIM." And then what they do is they go to their Coinbase account, or they go to any of these companies who do security wrong and do resets by SMS. Don't use SMS as second factor authentication. It is bad because you're gonna get scammed eventually. This is a classic.
Well, Leah and myself both have had this last year or this year.
Wow.
Yeah, both of our SIM cards got swiped. Got swiped.
I know, on April Fool's, which was a Sunday for me, so I couldn't even get to AT&T. It was such a nightmare.
You gotta give it to some hackers. They do have a sense of humor.
Yeah, you know what, Rodolfo? I'm actually I've had discussions with a few other people that had this happen to them that actually looked into this and opened up investigations, and it looks like the majority of these things actually don't happen because some random foreign hacker is doing it. They're inside jobs.
Oh yeah, I mean,
work at these companies.
Most hacking jobs are internal jobs.
Right.
Right.
So if you're working at AT&T or T-Mobile or any other provider, you're doing it. This is how they do it. Like once you find out, or you're doing it for a friend that's gonna do it, they're mostly inside jobs.
I mean, in most countries, all you have to do is show up with a driver's license at a store, and they will reset your stuff. They'll give you a SIM right there. We all know how difficult it is to get a driver's license done.
Right.
It's not exactly that. Thankfully, some countries now are starting to change to voice recognition for the authentication over the phone. But they do need to change the driver's license. Well, I mean, eventually, here's the thing. You know what? Don't use centralized services as two-factor authentication. Do you know that Authy product or Authy service that does second-factor authentication?
I mean, I know of it. I don't use it.
Don't use things like that. Okay, use Google Authenticator on your phone. It's offline, or use YubiKey. Use something that is not that does not have a third party.
My general advice to people has been the same since I started in 2014. Do not connect any Bitcoin to your identifying information, especially your cell phone. So when my phone number got hacked, sure, they can hack a bunch of my stuff, but my Bitcoin was always going to be safe. And that's the only thing I care about.
Well, it's kind of like that completely... Samsung tweeted saying that phones are super secure for wallets and things, or something like that. That is an insane thing to do. Phones are not secure. Phones are more maybe less commonly hacked than your computer, but they're still not secure. You should not be putting meaningful amounts of money on anything that is complex. So phones, computers, it's not that they are sort of backdoored or anything like that. I mean, which they kind of are. But the thing is, the more complexity, the more access points an attacker has. Right? And that's sort of how these things go. They call it a metric shit ton of attack vectors. And what I'm finding interesting, though, is as these crimes continue to increase, I think lawmakers are going to increase the time that you do for doing hacking. I think hacking is going to become one of those crimes that it's really going to go up in the chain, eventually, like Grand Theft Auto got. It's just not plain property anymore.
Rodolfo, in the news, just as a last follow-up, is often the new cell phones. I think HTC was even talking, about all the innovations of various crypto wallets on their new phones and blockchain powered phones and all, and it's just constantly in the news. So is there, are all these very dangerous, obviously cold card and everything. So can you just explain, are any of these safe? What are your risks? Is Samurai okay? Right? Like,
okay.
Overview.
So you have to think about risk thresholds, right? Like risk is something that is very personal, right? Like losing $5 as a North American is different than losing $5 as like somebody in a very poor place. So, the amounts of money it's a very personal thing. But, we all carry a wallet with like money in it, right? That you could lose. It's not even just getting like mugged or something. You can literally lose. So you keep amounts of money that are sort of like within the threshold of that risk. So Samurai Wallet is by far the best phone wallet. The problem is I personally don't like Android devices. I don't like their security model. I don't like how they work. That's my personal beef with Android. I'm waiting for Samurai to come to iOS. Now, if I had to use Android and it was having sort of like, spending money, I would use Samurai Wallet on the phone and feel perfectly fine with that. Now, are you going to put your life savings on it? No. You don't. The same way you don't carry your life savings in your wallet, So that's sort of like my advice. And just remember, right? Assume all these devices are backdoored, right? When you cross the border, you forfeit your right to privacy in many countries. So they have a little machine made by an Israeli company that can go and copy all the stuff that's in memory, all kinds of stuff. If they can truly see the seed or not, I mean, that's, I don't know because I don't have one of those machines, but assume they can. Assume your phone is owned. That is how you should sort of do security. Just assume some things are backdoored and go from there.
Interesting. Thank you. Yeah. So I think keeping all our cash and fiat under mattresses still and making sure that our ADT is working is still not the best idea. Just kidding. Okay, moving on to the next story. Thomson Reuters partners with Crypto Compare to provide rich insights into cryptocurrency market. I actually love my Reuters data stream. Tone likes his Bloomberg terminal. I wish we both still had them, but moving to the story, they partnered with Crypto Compare so that integrates order book and trade data for the 50 cryptos. I don't know which one those 50 are. And it provides the ability really to view real-time data. So for actively trading the coins. Tone, you think this is exciting? What do you think?
Yeah, God, I hated that icon terminal. I was all about the Bloomberg terminal, but yeah. So basically, Thomson Reuters their data providing service has one competitor, and that's Bloomberg, or I should say, Bloomberg data has one small competitor, and that's Thomson Reuters data. Thomson Reuters is trying to grow. They're trying to challenge Bloomberg to be a bigger global data provider, and like. This costs Thomson Reuters nothing. Like, making a relationship or buying up this little crypto company that has this data costs them very little. Thomson Reuters will then go ahead, repackage all this data and sell it to their big time clients. Because Thomson Reuters can make very good money as a middleman, just, pushing this data along because it's easy, because half of the companies on Wall Street use Thomson Reuters, maybe 20% use Thomson Reuters, and the rest use Bloomberg. So Thomson Reuters will have to compete for all this data. Being a data provider is an insanely lucrative and profitable job. It's a horrible job because every day guys like me would call and yell that the data is messed up, because that was my life. And so this is a standard. This is expected. And that data is going to, like Wall Street is not going to go to, CoinMarketCap. They're not going to go to these websites. They're not going to write APIs for them, right? They're paying Thomson Reuters, like a company like JP Morgan, for example, pays Bloomberg millions of dollars a year. Each department has their own budget to pull this data from Bloomberg. Same thing with Thomson Reuters. A company like JP Morgan has both of them. And they're not gonna, their departments are gonna want to get it from their data source. There's also like all kinds of regulations that prevent them from like just pulling random stuff into their computers. So it all needs to be standardized. So I'm not surprised that Bloomberg and Reuters will they're the ones that are going to make relationships with these little crypto companies. It'll cost them almost nothing, and they will turn around and sell that data for a shit ton of money.
Interesting. And it is their second initiative. The other one was the sentiment analysis, maybe proof of PR here. Rodolfo, at least I supported your Canadian economy by having Reuters. It is a Canadian company. What did you think about what they're up to?
I mean, I'm not a trader. It's nice to have competition in any space, right? I mean, I think it's about time that Bloomberg gets some decent competition. Thomson, I mean, I've met many smart people who worked at Thomson Reuters. They do have some very smart analysts there. Now, if it's a good product or not, I really not much to say about that.
Yeah, no, I know this is news to some of our followers, but like you and I, Leah, we've used Thomson Reuters and Bloomberg services before. This is not really news to us. This is Thomson Reuters' job. This is how they make money. This is how their data services make money. They're the ones that go out and pull this data from little companies that specialize in data X, and then they resell that data to big companies that need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's citing, which is true, that, there's a lack of good data for institutional investors to really start trading, to be determined on where they're even getting their data sources from, which exchanges, and if it's even better, and why people would even use it. It could just, again, be, I think, kind of like a proof of PR or news that they're being cool right now or something. But yeah, it's in alignment with what they do. Okay, P2P network to stop private.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized something. Here's what Thomson Reuters isn't doing. We are going to ICO and we are going to decentralize our data providing services.
I know. Isn't that amazing how you don't need a blockchain to launch a new product? Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, more security for you. P2P network to stop private data breaches and censorship via new protocol, a DApp platform. So Ken Coinbean, B-E-N-E, they're launching the Internet of People, IOP. Can this actually do something?
I give it 2 weeks from their launch of blockchain to get hacked.
Follow up, or is that okay? Tone?
I think this story and our next story actually coincide together, right? I mean, we're going to talk about the next story next. I mean, I see this as attempt number 42 to decentralize the internet. And let's see where the Silicon Valley show goes with this. This is just, this is another Ethereum, another EOS, another Tezos, another Waves, another, everything, right? Everyone's trying to decentralize the internet. And when they realize this is not affordable and stupid, they just need money to keep telling their bullshit, they're gonna ICO. So if this thing, oh yeah, there it is right there, which ICO funding model, right? So they're gonna ICO. I mean, this is just a couple of guys that wanna create something that makes no sense. And the only way they can fund it is with an ICO.
You can't have DApp and security on the same sentence. These are JavaScript people building on top of Ethereum and sort of trying to do like these things don't go together. It's kind of like saying I'm going to make a hardware security module using Windows. You just don't.
But it's saying it's decentralized.
Yeah, so you're going to just have multiple parties getting scammed.
Exactly. But it's kind of a cute little thing they got going on here.
Yeah, beautiful marketing.
I
like all these dApps. Wow, they hire the best marketing people.
Tone,
How do you explain to people that decentralized internet just doesn't make sense?
So this is the thing, right? I mean, the dream is to decentralize the internet. Ethereum is not how we're gonna do it. It's impossible to do it on top. See, a decentralized. Well, one, the internet is decentralized. Let's just start at that. It's maybe more centralized now than it used to be, but it is decentralized. Nobody controls the internet. You can just block the internet going through your pipes, but your pipes are just your pipes, not everybody else's pipes. Now, the thing is, you cannot, like, the way you decentralize the internet is more how IPFS would do, right? So you start, putting the data everywhere, and you create clever ways of making this whole thing sync. Now, you cannot use a blockchain as Bitcoin to decentralize stuff like applications, and that's what Ethereum tried and failed. That's why it doesn't work, and you can't run nodes. Ethereum is not decentralized anymore at all, by the way. There's, I think, one company now that essentially does the validation nodes for everybody else.
And how long before you think they will no longer be able to do so?
I mean, they use Amazon, right? So they can just gonna keep on growing inside Amazon.
But eventually that's gonna cost them a lot of money.
Oh yeah, and they're gonna keep on charging. See, they cost.
Not to mention Amazon can just cut them off any moment, right?
Exactly. See, ICOs just gonna but ICOs fund decentralized node, right? Because this ICO companies need to pay this company that actually does the tech. So I mean, maybe here's a fundamental for you, Tom. As more ICOs come out, it's good to buy Amazon stock.
I've always said it's good to buy Amazon stock.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing. I mean, I'm not a fan of the infrastructure. I do not use Amazon. However, they know how to scale for things, like photo apps, like your chat apps, things that are not as important. So like, they're maybe important for how you feel about your day checking Instagram, but they're not like your money. If your service provider uses cloud, it uses somebody else's computers, is a problem, right? This is one of the problems why I don't like all the centralized wallets, like Coinbase, for example. They're using Amazon. The least you have to do is run your own servers. Come on, it's not that hard.
Well, I think that you'll probably pull up Amazon stock again later today, Ton.
But yeah, I have been talking about Amazon stock for a while. I'm bullish Amazon stock. I always was and forever.
They did have a funny earnings season day, though.
I am a shopper. I love Amazon. So, that's why I keep on buying their stock too. It's a no-brainer there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, especially with my knee, actually, everything came through. I will admit also the Whole Foods acquisition was really cool. And so Safedine, it is really good, high-quality bones that have been in this broth. I'll just say that. Okay, so this is interesting. I really am interested in getting your guys' take on this. Bitcoin's second ever developers back with a big vision for crypto. So Malmi is joining a team of devs that's launching AXE. So can you just give us a background, Rodolfo, on Malmi and the importance of this story?
So this is a smart guy, but
you have to question that statement after reading that article, no?
So he actually left. He started when he left Bitcoin. I think he went to work on Guard Time. Guard Time is sort of it is essentially a paid version of Open Timestamps from Peter Todd. Open Timestamps came later. There's a lot of governments and a lot of interesting people using Guard Time, or at least PRing that they are using Guard Time. Now, this guy probably didn't hold a lot of Bitcoin, so he's going to go into scam.
John?
Right. Again, just like our last story, this is another guy that thinks he can capitalize financially on building a new internet, right? And even though he started it out as a grassroots movement, that's great. And it looks like he got, some actual VC investment. At this point, he has no choice but to ICO, and he now has to, promote it. He has to use his fame of being, the second ever Bitcoin core developer before there was even core developers, the second ever person Satoshi trusted to help code Bitcoin. And he's going to use that fame for all it's worth. I'm sure he believes that he is doing something good, but at the end of the day, he's trying to decentralize the internet, and he has no idea how he's going to pay for it. And therefore, he has to ICO, and he has to have this internet run on an internal token, which economically makes no sense.
Yeah, so this is the thing, right? It kills me because
I agree. I agree with you.
I want ICOs to be non-scammy, right? Like I want a way for your average person to be able to buy shares in a startup, without being an accredited investor or waiting for their turn at the retail market, right? Like I want that to happen. Now, we need to figure out a way of doing that, one, on top of Bitcoin. Okay, the scams also, everything needs to happen on top of Bitcoin because, at least it's on top of a platform that is secure. And then how do we do a better reputation market or something like that so that, people get less scammed? But, at least if you're a retail investor, you can go on a scale like a VC. You do 1,000 to 1. So a VC will go and invest in 1,000 startups. One pays off, pays for the rest. If you're a retail person, maybe once we have less scammy ICOs, you buy a share on a company, not their medium of credit or bullshit, right? You buy a share on that.
Not a software license.
Exactly, right? You buy a share, a security on that company, right? And you buy in 1,000 companies, you go and you put $50 here, $50 there, and hopefully your stuff and you're successful. I'm okay with that. I want that to happen, but I want that to happen under the securities model, under some form of credibility in there. But credibility is a complicated word. I don't like centralized authorities, so it's
That's a really interesting point. I really agree. Tone?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what the solution is. I just know the current situation is a problem. Like maybe if a bunch of smart people sat down, we can maybe come up with the solution. But the current model is terrible, and it's crazy. Like everyone is going to use their reputation, not everyone, but it looks like everyone, you just go deeper and deeper, right? Well, maybe at least with this guy around, there's apparently, I mean, I knew there was a developer pre-Gavin Andreessen that wasn't Satoshi. Maybe now we can say, hey, maybe everyone should listen to this guy. Go pile into this other nonsense besides Bcash.
There was a bunch of people. Like it's just somewhere a little bit more obscure. It's a surprisingly amount of people, actually.
And again, there are plenty of great projects he could come back and start working with if his developer skills are good enough, between Lightning and privacy work that, again, could pay him money. I know he's on this altruistic path to decentralize the internet, but I don't see how that can possibly happen with the internet's network effect. You're introducing an additional token that is not going to be secure. It can't be. Like the model isn't there. It's simply a way for you to get paid to try to do something, kind of like MadeSafe has been doing for 20 years and hasn't done anything.
No, MadeSafe is a whole other bag of hurt. No, but what I find interesting is, for example, IPFS it's actually good technology, and it was done by smart people. But again, the FOMO of leaving the money on the table sort of got to them too, so they wanted to start a IPFS token.
How'd that go?
That's also one of the problems that happens when you have, an Austrian economic system, right? It's like the people who come in a little later are also going to feel left behind and are going to maybe want to start their own, store of value. But I think this is it's a time problem, not a technological problem. time is gonna sort of, push all this stuff away, because these things don't survive long, and eventually becomes the joke, right? I mean, we're starting to enter the point now where ICOs and dApps are a joke, and even VCs that are maybe don't have as much access to better stories are also getting burned too. It's gonna cycle. VR was its cycle. It's all blockchain was a cycle.
And we're probably going to save this discussion for another day, but I see a lot of references to Rootstock, especially when you mentioned, building it on Bitcoin. And maybe Rootstock at one point had, a somewhat decent and legitimate model when they weren't going to have a token and they were going to try to do some kind of a side chain on top of Bitcoin. Now they've gone completely, again, we need money. We're going to ICO.
Let's discuss that a little bit.
Rodolfo, just to your point, the parallels to the dot-com bubble are just, I think, beyond apparent. And back then, right, like everything was spectacular and everything was amazing, and investors went to all the conferences and took notes, and everyone was standing up and talking crap. I'm no longer saying shit coins. I'm trying so hard, Tone. You're screwing me up.
Very quick on Rootstock. I think, hey, Leah, next time Rootstock is in the news, we'll do a deeper dive. But just a quick word.
It's a good idea.
There is a fundamental difference between the .com and this space, which is we have a store of value. And in that time we had the internet. We got the internet, like a good internet, out of the .com. It's just that essentially all the scams paid for the externality, which was developing the internet. I'm fine with that. That's great. Let the scams pay for it. The scammers pay for all the conferences in Bitcoin. So be it. Now, with Bitcoin, we are coming out with a store of value. So that sort of throws this whole thing for a spin. We don't know where this is going to go. Now, Rootstock, it's complicated because, see, it actually goes back to collared coins. See, and collared coins was sort of like a clever way of doing some of this stuff, essentially just assigning a transaction for some other data that was not part of Bitcoin and had nothing to do with Bitcoin. And Open Timestamps does that in spades. Now, because you couldn't do as much as Vitalik wanted to do on collared coins, he started the ERC20 tokens. But of course, Bitcoin is not going to change to accommodate all the stupid changes that the ERC20 wants. So they created their own blockchain. That's essentially how this whole Ethereum stuff started. And they're learning their lesson. It doesn't scale, it's broken, and eventually it's going to stop. Or actually, I don't believe it's going to stop. I think they're just going to say, you know what, we were wrong. I think that blockchains should be centralized and run by Amazon, TM, and that's it.
No. I see a different path. I see all of these ERC20 just migrating to EOS and whatever the two stories that we covered today. Sure. I mean, Ethereum has plenty of competition, and people are going to say, hey, you know what? The blockchain that we are built on top of is totally flexible. We can just move.
I just think that the beautiful thing of shitty businesses, right? At the start, it gets old. This happens to every single industry.
Dude, I'm telling you, right? I know, but right now, I think the best project someone can build and make a shit ton of scam money is by building an easy transition path for an ERC20 token from one shitty blockchain to a shittier blockchain.
Yeah, no, it's the shit converter.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Wait. So back to Rootstock for a second. Just final word.
Yes. All right. Despite this deep dive that we're still going to do, final word, Rodolfo, and Rootstock.
No, I mean, I think they missed the boat. And I think what
there's just going to be another Ethereum competitor built the same way.
Yeah,
because they're not going to get their drive chains. They're not going to get the forks into Bitcoin to do
what drive chains don't work. It don't matter. Matt is the person who actually originally wrote that. He says it doesn't work. That's why he gave up the project. Blue Matt wrote it.
Yes.
and he actually called out whoever was the next dev on it. But anyways, it's like
it's amazing. Not only is all of like Bitcoin's innovations are like being used in other projects, Bitcoin's innovations that the innovators have called, yeah, you know what? I thought this would work, but it's not. People are running with them as business models.
Most people who came to Bitcoin to be a developer came from their own sort of like needs to solve a decentralized or a monetary problem. Like these things don't happen in a vacuum, right? There's plenty of people trying to solve the problem that Satoshi did. And they saw that this solution was better, so they came to it. It's a Darwinian model right there. Now, anyways, I think the securities for ICOs problem is going to be solved, with some semi-centralized system where you're going to have maybe the companies sort of like sidechain or something like that, and then you're already trusting that the company is going to honor the value that it claims to have to you. So if the company says they're making money, you're trusting that anyways. So might as well trust them with some form of like a hub and spoke sort of solution for their shares. I don't care. If I'm already trusting the company with my money, might as well trust them to handle the accounting of those shares too. Maybe there's transparency on that, sort of just push back into the blockchain, but this is yet to see. It's too early. We're still trying to solve making better money.
Do you want a last comment on Rootstock, Tom, before?
No, I'm good. I think we should cover it one of these days. Let's see one day. Next time they're in the news. And the thing is, like, I really like the people involved in Rootstock. I like Diego. I like them as people. They do good events. I'm always at their Latin American conferences. I like some of their devs as people. Their project never made sense to me.
Rodolfo, are you able to stick around for TA, or you got to head out to the woods again?
No woods today, but I did get my hunting license, which is going to be a lot of fun this season. When I eat some venison.
That's great.
That is my plan. Yeah, guys. No, I will watch the TA from the privacy of not having a camera, so I can make my faces. Yeah, no. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Rodolfo. Talk to you later.
Take care.
See ya. DJ Tone.
Yes.
Hit us with the TA beats.
All right, let's do it. Well, we'll skip mempool today. No Jimmy.
You want to do the mempool? I'll do
Not
TA.
really.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, but maybe I should start pulling up like the Willy Woo's NVT ratio, but it doesn't like it updates somewhat slowly. I mean, this is a high level kind of model here. So
I like it. Look at you becoming a fundamental analyst.
Yeah, no, but like when the fundamental analysis comes in the form of charts, I'm happy about that. It satisfies both of those needs. But yeah, hey, keep an eye on the NVT ratio now that the price started to go down a little bit this morning. Let's see how fast that adjusts. My website, let's see how many seats are left in my workshops. We'll both be surprised. 3 seats left in Vegas, 5 in Chicago, still 11 in Boston. Boston is not going to be that big of an event. I will be there Friday night to speak at the meetup. That looks like there's going to be a lot of people. 155 expected to attend. That should be great. But so I'll drive up to Boston Friday. I still need to find a place to stay there somewhere. And Saturday, right after the workshop, I have to go back so I can make the Seyfedin Carnivory dinner in DC on Sunday. So is there going to be like a sign up? Does Seyfedin have like a website for people to sign up?
So everything's going to be announced soon, hopefully by the end of the day, but it is going to be absolutely amazing.
All right, cool. So keep an eye on Twitter. We'll announce it where you can sign up and where it's going to be, because that, is there going to be a limit on how many seats at dinner? Maybe 20, 50? What?
Yeah, there will be a limit for seats at dinner for the carnivory dinner, but obviously for the book signing, get everybody.
All right, cool. Yeah, I need my book signed, so I'll have to drive down.
No, me too. I have 2.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to buy a second one. Is he going to have books there for sale?
Safe. Of question to you. Live chat us.
I'll buy a second one. But anyway, all right, let's do TA. Monthly chart, that hasn't changed. Weekly chart, let's go to this chart. Here's our weekly chart. We dropped quite a bit this morning. When I woke up this morning, it was still like 8,100. So this must have been a nice little morning plunge. Not surprising at all. I didn't think, it's just the way that it bottomed didn't sit well with me. I would have timed the upswing into 8,400 into the depth cross if we only had fallen to 5,000. By not falling to 5,000, it created a bad trading opportunity in my mind for the dead cat bounce into the depth cross. And I do think that this depth cross is significant. It's 30 versus 50. I know 30 and 50 are not the most common elements of a moving average, but I find them to be somewhat useful in the crypto space. Basically, there's no reason to panic yet. However, if you get the price flip on the sequential, if you go below the low of last week, if by the end of this week, we close lower than the opening of last week, which was 7,400. If the current week closes below 7,400, that creates a very, very bad situation for crypto. In fact, I'm going to move this red line up on a weekly chart. And I would say that going below this red line of 6,400 creates a very, very troublesome future for a price of Bitcoin from a technical analysis perspective, to where this blue line becomes the ultimate target. So because we went up so much, I'm going to give this a little bit of room. This is the weekly chart. The weekly chart, I can even raise this a little bit because of the prior lows. Like once the price of Bitcoin gets to even 6,800, Bitcoin becomes in trouble. The drop in price should accelerate below 6,400. And now this will get very interesting, right? Technical analysis is very dynamic. I would have been very, very, we are in color, right? I have to like check every now and then.
You're in color, but people want you to fill in your green candlesticks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I like them open. I like
them open as well, actually.
All right, be a rebel.
I'm gonna be a rebel. So here's the thing. Trading is dynamic. It's not static, right? Like people are still talking about what I said in November of 2017. What I said in November of 2017 is only relevant until the following time I did a video and said something else, right? So everything a person says is only as true until the next time they open their mouth about price. So anything I said about price in yesterday's video is pretty much irrelevant because I'm doing a video today, unless I do not talk about that specific thing, right? Like if I talked about Twitter yesterday, but I'm not going to talk about Twitter today, then everything I said about Twitter yesterday somewhat holds because I haven't said anything after. But eventually there is a time period where it's irrelevant. So had we fallen to 5,000 back in July like I expected, I would have looked for a bounce to here and then a complete break below 5,000 next time we go to 5,000. Because we turned around at 5,750, it creates a very weird situation if we get all the way back to 5,000. Because this time around, if we get back to 5,000, I'm not as confident the price will significantly bounce off of 5,000 that I would have been. Because the bounce off of 5,000 that I would have expected is the bounce we have just completed. So now if we are falling to 5,000, I'm not as confident there's even going to be a bounce because the prior turnaround took place from the vicinity of 5,000. I'm not as confident that the bounce is going to even take place at 5,000. We are now more likely to fall through 5,000 than before because we already turned around and moved from 57 all the way to 84. So everything is going to be a lot more dynamic and a lot harder to make judgment calls in real time or ahead of time. So let's see what happens, and we're going to take it day by day. But right now, I would be very, very cautious if I was long Bitcoin, unless you have a really long-term horizon, like years. Here's the daily chart. See, the CMF is still pretty damn strong, which is interesting to say the least. Your RSI went overbought right at the daily 9. You are now trending down. Your MACD is about to cross over in about 2 days. And those are all my the indicators that I have. You got rejected by the vicinity of the 200-day moving average. You can find some support at the 128-day moving average. And then you will also find support at the 50-day moving average. Now, all three of these moving averages are below each other in concession. 2 of them are trending down. 1 of them has started to trend up. You are on a price flip. So the sequential system did not actually give you any clean entries on the daily chart. We'll look at the 12-hour for that. You do have support right here at 75.80. And this was a big drop in 1 day. We'll take a look at the smaller time frames to see if a trader could have taken advantage of that. But from a daily perspective, you should be very cautious with your bullish trades. And the bearish trades should have a much better risk-reward ratio if you're the kind of person that takes on bearish trades, which is usually not advisable. The 12-hour chart did give you a cleaner entry point if you are a trader of the sequential. Your RSI is trending down from overbought. Your MACD has crossed over and trending down. Your CMF is still pretty positive. You have now fallen below the intermediate moving average on a 12-hour. And right here is where your red 2 went below a red 1 on a 12-hour chart. That was about a day and a half ago. And that took place at the price of what? That took place at the price of $8,050. Now, no matter what stop loss you set for this trade, it should not have been hit because your most reasonable stop loss should have been above your entry candle, which is all the way at 8,300. So had you shorted based on sequential, you would currently be in the short trade, and you should absolutely have a break-even stop right now. And this trade should never go in the red again. Now I would wait for a 9. You're on 4 of 9. And you're now broken below the 30-period moving average. There's your 50-period moving average. Here's your very critical. It's not that critical. This is the very critical line. The 7,600 has been very critical in forever. You are right at this line. Going below this line is bad, is very bad. Like, it needs to rebound right here and right now in order to get back to above 8,500. Going back below this line, look how critical this line is. I can take this line all the way back to 2017. Look how critical it's been back in March of this year. You broke below it. Once you broke in March of this year, it supported the price at the $7,600 area. Then in late March, it broke and we fell all the way down to 6,500 once we broke 77.50. Then once we broke above it back in April, we went through 77.50 and we went all the way back up to 10,000. Then we broke it back to the downside at 77.50 and we fell all the way to 5,700. But on the way to falling there, we back tested it as resistance. Now, can we test it as support? can we do the opposite of what the price of Bitcoin did back in the first week of June? If we can rebound right here and bounce off of 7750 and make it back to 8,500, I will concede that we could go back to 10,000 and above. This is a very, very critical juncture right now. Whenever this thing breaks, whenever this line breaks, Bitcoin violently moves in one direction or another. Now, the last time it broke this to the upside, we only moved up 1,000, which makes sense because we continue to make lower lows and lower highs. So this will probably be the last time we break this line for a while. If we accelerate down to 7,000, I can't possibly see 7,000 bouncing the price. And then we go lower. And once we go lower than 7,000, there is no support. There is no support until 5,000. So it's now or never for Bitcoin in order to reverse the bear trend. If it doesn't do it here, if we can't break 70, if we can't hold 7750, I believe it's it's done. It's going back to new lows. This is pretty much it. Here's the hourly chart. The CMF is about to go into the red. The hourly, I need to refresh this because the sequential hit a memory loss. Too much data. Right. So here's the hourly chart, the 4-hour chart. If you blindly traded the sequential, your 4-hour chart gave you a short entry at 79.30 about 4 hours ago. And it's still on a bearish trade. You're on a 3 of 9. Look at the volume ticking up. That's not good. You can see how the majority of the volume spikes are red. And well, this one doesn't. This one is actually green. I wouldn't treat that as a red, but these big red down 4-hour periods are not pretty. So be very, very careful. I don't see any volume on the current candle yet. It just started. It's only 4 minutes in and already dropped a few bucks. I would be very, very careful right here. Here is the hourly chart. So I have some good news for you. The hourly chart is on a 9 buy. So right now, this also makes sense from a 12-hour perspective, being the 7750 critical zone. And you did have your doji candle 2 hours ago on the 7. You had your hammer candle last hour on the 8, and you just started your 9th hour. So what are we expecting? Well, we're expecting a 1 to 4 candle correction, and then acceleration of the downside based on the hourly chart. S&P 500 is having a decent day, week, sorry. The week has already rebounded. I remain bullish the S&P 500. Here is the daily chart of the S&P 500. Looks like we didn't even fall all that much. The sequential system flipped, but did not give you a daily short play because the red 2 never went below a red, and we're having a positive day. Gold weekly is on a 7 of 9. Let's see where that goes. Gold monthly isn't changing. Here's Amazon. Amazon is rebounding nicely today. The red 2 did go below a red 1 this morning, but I would already be very, very careful with the short trade on Amazon. I remain bullish on Amazon. Facebook is still in the red. It's a red 4 of 9. And basically, if someone was using the sequential system, they would be in pretty much a break-even position right now, and you may consider getting out of this trade because if you didn't take any profit, or I would have set a break-even stop loss. I like to only make money. I don't like my profitable trades to go red. I would move my trade into something else. Twitter, let's see how Twitter is doing. Twitter was another one that, and there it is. So the same thing, right? The market is strong. The stock is in a bear market based on this. Again, your Short trade based on sequential is a red 3 below a red 2. You are up decently. It depends on your time horizon, of course. I would be setting a break-even stop and riding either a win or a no trade. I mean, that's how you preserve your capital. That's pretty much it. Boston this Friday for a meetup. Lots of people. My workshop is the following day on Saturday. I'll be driving to DC on Sunday. And here are the rest of my my speaking engagements. I will be in Vegas to speak at Chain Exchange with lots of really famous people. That should be a lot of fun. I was looking at their schedule. I will be speaking at Block Show as well. I'll be tweeting some of these out. A Block Show in Vegas, then Chicago, and then at the end of the month, and then off to Europe, where there'll be lots of events. The one I'm looking forward to the most is the blockchain cruise. That should be a hell of a lot of fun. So go ahead and check that out. This whole show is going to be there. Rodolfo can't make it, unfortunately, but everybody else will.
We're going to have so much fun. For everybody talking about Apple, Apple's earnings don't come out until later in the afternoon, by the way.
Oh, Apple earnings comes out today. Let me take a look.
Yep.
I actually knew that Apple's earnings were coming out today. Apple, I used to trade Apple. It's become Apple hasn't been volatile enough for me. I need my sequential. Apple doesn't move that much, guys. Right, so Apple told you to get out, like right here on the price flip, too close to earnings. You had a 9. The 9 couldn't break the setup trend. The setup trend broken on that pump at the couple of this week, or last week, I should say. I wouldn't mess with Apple. I would not be holding Apple through earnings. I don't know if it's going to go up or down. Apple doesn't gap that much on earnings. It had fallen off of my trade list a while back because of, like, again, maybe if they didn't split, maybe if it was, in a $2,000 range, maybe it would be something I would play with. But Apple's market cap is not ideal based on its along with its price. I'm not a big fan of trading Apple.
All right. Perfect.
That's it.
I think we're good. All right. I don't think Rodolfo knows that he's not in stealth mode. I wasn't going to tell you, Rodolfo. He is in stealth mode. Okay, cool. Oh, I didn't know that worked like that. Rodolfo's gone. So,
oh, there he is.
Well, he's watching the trading and just, could do other things.
Yeah, who knows? Okay, yes, 1, you can listen to this later on the audio podcast. 2, Swipng is coming to DC. Last time I'll say it. Today, that is. On Sunday, book signing and also carnivory dinner. 3, Rodolfo, you're awesome. Thanks for coming today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Maybe everybody should check out his tweet.
Yeah, there's some fun ones today. Getting some stuff out of my system.
Oh, yeah. All right, Tone, thank you.
Bye, guys. Good luck trading.
Bye, everybody.